What is up, you guys? Hope you're having an awesome day. I'm your host Ayman Hassan and welcome back to another video. Now, I don't like ghosts, let me put it bluntly. It's not my vibe. If anything, they kill my vibe and my soul. I always freak out at the slightest sound or touch. When I'm at home, I'm like on high alert. And I was like, what was that? Who is that? Who is here? Am I alone? We'd already know. What am I doing with my hands? I guess we'll find out. I thought part 1 was pretty bad, but the sequel is honestly even more horrific. These are the top 10 families who lived in real haunted houses, part 2. Starting us off at number 10 is The Repeat. This one was shared by Reddit user I Am Here to Say This, who said they lived in an old home for 5 years. The user's stepdad had known the man who lived in the house before them, and also that he had hung himself in the attic. Not really thinking anything of the story, the user just continued on life as usual. But 1 month into living at the house, he started hearing footsteps in the attic. And it wasn't just once. Like clockwork, every night at 3 AM he would hear footsteps pacing around in the attic. The steps were at a normal speed, but they were heavy. It kind of sounded like a man was thinking about something. After the footsteps, the user would hear a chair falling on the ground and then absolutely nothing. And I feel like a lot of the time when people hang themselves, they use a chair to stand on and then tie themselves to whatever they need to above and then knock the chair out of reach. So I don't want to say the ghost of this man was redoing his suicide every night, but I'm also not saying that. And I haven't had breakfast and I woke up late. Coming in at number 9 are the Doppelgangers Part 1. This one's from Reddit user 1LT Obvious, who is sure his family home was haunted by doppelgangers, and here's why. He recalled one time as a teenager when he was on MSN with his girlfriend with the webcam on. Do you guys remember the days when you'd like nudge people and play games on MSN? Either way, in the view you could see the user, his bedroom door behind him, the stairs going upstairs on the left, and the living room on the right. Now usually his little sister would fall asleep watching TV and then go to bed at some point in the night. At one point while they were messaging, the user saw his sister leave the living room to go upstairs, but she didn't make any sound, which he found really odd. They lived in an old house, so it would creak really loudly every time anyone went anywhere. He went to the living room to check and his sister was there still sleeping, so alarm bells started going off. He then goes and sits back down and asks his girlfriend if she saw anything on the camera, and she was like, yeah, I saw your sister go upstairs. But my sister's sleeping on the couch, so who the hell just went upstairs? Do you guys see why I'm always on high alert? What is going on? At number 8 we have the Doppelgangers Part 2. From the same user, he shared another story involving his own ghostly doppelganger. There was one afternoon where his whole family was getting ready to go somewhere and he was already sitting in the car with his mom. They were waiting for his little sister, and when she finally got into the car, she looked at him and was like, what the hell? Confused, the user asked her what was wrong and she replied saying she thought he was still inside because before she left she yelled saying we're leaving, and she got a reply from him upstairs saying okay, I'll be down in a minute. When really he was in the car the whole time. No one else was in the house, yet his voice answered her. Nervous laughter. Moving house. Lol. Filling at number 7 slot is The Shadow. Now this one comes from Cotton Candy Sweet and Low, who was sure that he had a ghost living in his last house. There were just too many things that took place that couldn't be explained. Full coffee cans would be flung across the kitchen. His mum woke up in the middle of the night because she felt something pulling and pinching her legs. One night the user woke up because some force kept shaking his bed, and then he started hysterically crying till it stopped. But the worst thing he described took place one night at 3 AM. He was downstairs and he saw a shadow on the wall, assuming it was his mum, but when he turned around, no one was there. Then all of a sudden he felt this intense choking feeling and the light started flickering before going off completely. Meanwhile, this guy is getting choked by something and cannot breathe. When the entity finally let him go, he ran to his mum's room and cried under the blankets all night. I would do the same, honestly, I would do the same. Now at number 6 is The Maid. This one comes from Reddit user Twig Snapper, whose uncle's house was located in very East New York. It was supposedly haunted because the family that owned it in the 1800s refused to give it to their stableman and decided to sell it instead. Sad and disappointed, the stableman's spirit stayed at the house, as did the maids. Now the family used to hear furniture being moved around at night, but just chalked it up to how old the house was. Naive. Simply naive. However, one weekend the uncle had a friend and her sister stay over, and waking up from mid-sleep that night, the friend saw the maid bringing towels down the stairs. Now she never saw her go back up, but a few minutes later she saw the maid bring a percolator downstairs as well. Not thinking much of it, and if anything impressed by the hired staff, she went back to sleep. When she woke up and went downstairs, she asked the uncle where the maid went, and the uncle was like, what? I don't have a maid. He then asked her what she looked like and then took her to an old portrait in the living room, which was was of the maid. The friend then said that was a woman she saw, and he replied saying she had been dead for over a century. But the grind never ends, does it? Coming in at number 5 is the cat hater. You already know I have beef with this one. As a cat lady, this one is just simply not on. Now this one was shared by Reddit user MT Swagger, who said there was some sort of entity in his house that either hated his cats or just liked to tease them. He recalled watching one of his cats walking through the dining area, but then all of a sudden her tail went straight and she was sliding backwards like she was being pulled. The cat was freaking out and meowing and actively trying to run, but she couldn't move. The entity held on for a few more seconds before letting the cat go. You cannot grab an animal by its tail and pull it. It hurts them. You guys, it hurts them. I may not be able to see this ghost entity, but I will call the police on them. I don't even care. At number 4 is the door that never closed. So this one was shared by Redditor iCountFish, who said he used to house sit his boss's house whenever he was out of the country. Now this house was a massive, I'm talking 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, the whole 9 yards. The user kind of exclusively lived on the first floor, but a month in he started hearing bumps and bangs coming from the second floor. He'd go up to check but would never really find anything. And the thing about the second floor was that there were a lot of unfinished areas, one of which was a walk-in closet that was attached to the unlit garage attic. I didn't know you could have a garage in the attic. Either way, one day he went inside to investigate and then locked the door as he left. 2 nights later he heard more noises and went up to check to find the door open. Not just unlocked, but open. And this continued to happen. The door would not stay shut or locked no matter what. At one point he even locked it and pushed a bed up against it to find the door unlocked yet again, and the bed moved. Like, I knew ghosts could move smaller things, but a bed? Damn. Zam, Zaddy. Filling at number 3 slot is the College Nightmare Part 1. So this one's from Munchies on Reddit, who said he lived in a haunted house with his friends while he was in college. He had so many stories to share, but I tried picking the best ones. One night he woke up at 3 AM fuming because his roommate's door kept opening and slamming shut. He shouted from his bed telling his roommate to stop before realizing he was the only person in the house that weekend. But as soon as he finished yelling, the doors stopped moving as well. Instead, the hippie beads hanging on his own door started swaying violently against his door for an hour before stopping. He also shared that anytime anything strange happened around the house, it would start smelling like this strong, flowery old lady sort of perfume. So I'm guessing the entity haunting them was an old woman from the days of yore. What does that even mean? The days of yore. I don't know, I heard it. I used it. Now at number 2 is the College Nightmare Part 2. Now another really odd thing with this college house was the fact that it had a door built into the floor that led to the basement, but it was always hidden by carpet, so no one else other than the tenants knew it was there. However, things in the house would continuously go missing and wind up in the basement in the coal chute down there. On another occasion, one of the roommates was playing video games at night when he saw a visible cloud of mist travel from the kitchen into the bathroom then disappear into the basement door. Another night, the last roommate up was locking the doors and closing the lights before going to bed. As he was walking, he heard someone breathe into his ear, and initially he thought it was one of the roommates, but they were all asleep. He turned around, saw no one there, shat himself, and then ran to his room. And finally, at number 1 is the previous owner. This one comes from the Toenail Collector on Reddit, and I honestly hope you do not collect your toenails. I'm gagging. Either way, he shared that as a teen he lived in an old farmhouse that his family were remodeling. One day he was working under his truck while only being supported by a jack, which I feel like is pretty dumb. Either way, midway he really had no reason to get out from underneath, but all of a sudden he felt this overwhelming urge to get out. So he did, and less than 2 seconds later the jack slipped and the truck fell to the ground. Now had he been under there, he would have straight up died. So he ended up telling his parents about it later on that day, and his mum started sobbing, saying the previous owner had died under a vehicle in the exact same spot. The family would also see moving shadows around the house and music coming from upstairs despite no one playing it. One morning his mum was making breakfast and she went to get something from a cabinet, and when she turned around all the forks were stabbed into the table and then bent like right angles. Like, to know what's going on there. We're just gonna sweep it under the rug. Okay, I guess so. And that is it for today's video, guys. I don't like haunting and I don't like ghosts. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. Let me know if you've ever been haunted by anything. Has your house been haunted? Have you been haunted personally? Let me know in the comments below. As always, I'm your host, Eamon Hassan, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!